Eric, Julio or Penny in the flex. So Julio apparently fell on his knee last week, causing him to be a true game time decision. And I'm looking at the time in the game. That is a early game, so that's a good news for you. It's an early kickoff. Rashad Penny, however, is playing in a later game at 3 o'clock. Now, all the other thing is if you're 4 o'clock Eastern. But anyway, the point is, Ken Walker will be involved. I don't know how involved Ken Walker will be. And so now we got to look at this in terms of Julio's not 100% possibly. And Penny had only 12 carries last week, which is very frustrating. He should have had 20 carries, but he didn't. I'm going to say at this point, though, Penny has not only a higher floor, but a higher ceiling than Julio because of the potential to break a long run. So I'll go with that. Have a question from Johnny Goose on Insta, Burrow or Carr this week. So Derek Carr is in a smash spot, but there's always downside. Their offensive line is horrible. Joe Burrow's facing Dallas, and Dallas will get some pass rush in here. So it's going to be a tough call here because I think that ultimately that if the Cowboys don't score a lot of points, then the Bengals might not have to go push the foot on the pedal on offense. I would really struggle to sit Joe Burrow ever because he has ridiculous upside in any week. But I would say right now, I would say 60% Burrow, 40% Carr, just because if Carr gets under pressure a lot, which I don't worry Arizona does that too much, but that line's a big problem. So I would say that. All right, let's go back here. Those on Instagram, I have questions on Twitter and YouTube as well. So you're not going to see those questions. I'll get them as I can get through here. Jake, you got Paris Campbell or Ashton Doolin. So Doolin saw 6 targets last week, played the lesser of the timeshare, but then Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce are out. Paris Campbell played a lot more snaps but saw fewer targets. I think that the targets just get allocated among everybody. I think Nyheim Hines sees a lot of targets or on the same time in the field with Jonathan Taylor. Doolin would be one who would see more deep shots, and I don't know how many deep shots are going to take, but he would be more likely to see some of those. Paris Campbell, if they're going to use him, would be utilized on more slants and in breaking routes. And I think Campbell has a higher floor, but ultimately Doolin being the guy that might be going deep, that might give him some upside. Samuel Jackson 3 has a question: Schultz or Taysom Hill? So Schultz has a great floor because they have to throw to him in the middle of the field. He's going to get targets, and especially with the pass rush, Dallas can't protect right now. They're down so many linemen. So I think Schultz has a rock solid floor for you. Taysom Hill is always going to be like last week. He was used on a couple gadgety plays, had a long run on one of them. So I just think Schultz is just too safe to kind of let pass there. Hill is always going to be very volatile, but Schultz has floor and he has some ceiling. All right, Kavan, Schultz or Freiermuth. So again, Schultz has a crazy high floor. Freiermuth saw a lot of targets last week, but Chase Claypool's involved, Deontay Johnson's involved. They got a lot of guys involved. So therefore, I think Freiermuth's usage could be very, very volatile here. And they're playing New England. And I don't know how high scoring that game goes. Dallas is probably going to have to be chasing it, in my guesstimation. I would assume that Cincinnati put some points up. So I would probably say Schultz is safer, and they probably both have similar upside as well. And all right, we got a question from half PPR, Sutton or Amon-Ra St. Brown. So again, kind of the similar question here. Amon-Ra tends to see a lot of targets. Even last week, he saw like a dozen of them. Now, Sutton only saw 7, but he had a pass interference on a deep play. And I think that the game plan was ridiculous by Denver, running way and throwing screens way more than they needed to. I think against Houston, they would have to come out and open it up a bit. I mean, they paid Russ all this money, right? And they want to use him. So, I think Sutton does have real upside. He's a perfect fit with Russ, but I think Amon-Ra has the higher floor. So I think that's how you got to look at it. If you want that floor play, a solid 10 PPR points, or half PPR, you can get like 9, 8, 9 half PPR points. But if you need some ceiling, I think Sutton has your ceiling covered for you. Got a question on Insta: Carter or Wilson or Penny? Thanks. Well, Carter's in great shape here. So he's seeing a little more than half the touches, and they threw 19 passes to running backs last week. So I think Carter's a really strong play there. I probably would lean him because, again, they're going to throw screens, and that's going to bolster your PPR points. B. Ali, good morning. Devontae, Alec Pierce is out, or Damian Pierce? I mean, Damian Pierce. I would imagine, unless it's, yeah, if you mean Alec Pierce, he's out. Russell Gage or Treylon Burks, you do have AJ. So Russell Gage is in a great spot this week because Chris Godwin's out, and the two players for the Saints that always made it tough for Brady in the middle of the field, but free safety Marcus Williams and corner Chauncey Gardner-Johnson are no longer with the team. And so I think they're more vulnerable there, and then Brady can go back to attacking New Orleans because New Orleans is always stout there. They're not going to be. And I think with Julio, a little iffy, Godwin out, I think it could be a potentially big game for one Russell Gage. So I think Gage has a very strong floor, and I think he has real ceiling. So I would lean him. Got another instant question: Zeke, Samuel, Michael Carter. Who would I pick? Zeke's kind of got a guaranteed workload between screens and carries. I'm very worried about the Dallas offensive line, so I worry there. Carter's going to get you some targets, which that's huge. Just talked about him a moment ago. But so and honestly, I think Carter's your best blend of floor and ceiling. Samuel did have 15 touches last week, but between McLaurin and Dotson, they only had 9 targets. So I think that Samuel role is going to be important, but I really think it has to vacillate week to week. They can't just make him the centerpiece of the offense and ignore McLaurin and Dotson, especially McLaurin. So I just think the volatility there. Now Washington's playing Detroit, and that's a very good matchup for Curtis Samuel. So I think Michael Carter is your best blend of floor and moderate ceiling, but I think the biggest ceiling, and this goes to Curtis Samuel, I think he has a lower floor because those targets and things could vacillate week to week. So I think Carter's safest, and I think Samuel's your swing for the fence one there. Zeke's a good play, but I just don't like the offensive line. They're down another left guard this week. McGovern had a high ankle sprain, so that's going to be tough on them. Willie, if a chance, Gabe Davis, should he drop Gallup or Julio, pick up McKenzie? Yeah, exactly. Or do I start Michael Carter, Edmonds, and Damian Harris? Well, I think Gabe Davis obviously has ridiculous upside, and they're playing Tennessee, and Tennessee's top corner has an injury, and he's be a little iffy, but even if he plays, he's not 100%, and that'll probably be, half the time on Diggs if they don't rotate sides. But I think this is a great matchup for Gabe Davis, and I really wouldn't want him on my bench. So I think that you go with the idea of McKenzie, then I think at least you have a hedge, because if Davis is out, then that means McKenzie's snapshot to go from 42 to 80, and now you change the equation. So I think that's probably the way to go. I don't think you want to miss out on that upside. So, yeah, I think that's the way to go right there. And you could drop Gallup. I probably would drop Gallup. Julio looks like he's going to be a deal there, so I would probably go that route. All right, let's see what else we got here. We've got Kavan, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers. Look, Panthers last week only ran 50 plays. The Browns ran the ball down their throats, drained the clock. It's what the Browns do, right? But Moore still had 6 targets. So he had like 40-something yards. This is a good week for him. He has a great matchup against the Giants. The Giants corner Aaron Robinson's out, and so they're really hurting. They're down 2 rushers, Kayvon Thibodeau, and they're also missing Azeez Ojulari. So it's going to be a big deal for them. So I do think it's a great game for the Panthers to get the thing moving. And I think DJ Moore finally gets his alpha spot that he should have had. He got out-targeted by Robbie Anderson last week. Flashes of 2020, right? All right, Bialy, half-point PPR, Devontae or Chark over Henderson or Hunt. Probably say no. Chark could be kind of hit or miss. He had a good game last week, and I think he's a good draft pick that you made. But ultimately, I think that his usage is going to be a little bit problematic. As Washington, I know there's no Chase Young, but they have a good pass rush, and the Lions are down. They're all 3 interior linemen. I know they still have their tackles, but there might be more pressure on Goff. Goff might have to get the ball out way quicker than usual here. Hey, Kyle, good to see you in the house, man. So that's what I would point toward there. I definitely would say that Henderson right now, we have to anticipate he'll get carries. We don't know if Akers is going to get his job back, but right now it doesn't necessarily lean us anything to make us think it's going to happen. And then Kareem Hunt obviously has plenty of usage. So I think you go with those guys both for floor, and they have moderate ceiling. Devontae right now, I'm a little bit nervous because it just seems to be all about A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert in the passing game. All right, let's see here. Any other instant questions? I don't see any yet. Would I leave Gabe Davis here in line? Again, if you have a pivot, you could do that. And they play the first Monday, and I'm looking at the schedule, the first Monday night game. So if you could get another pivot from either Tennessee, Buffalo, Isaiah McKenzie, or Jamison Crowder, Minnesota, or Philadelphia, I would try to get somebody that you could trade out and put Gabe Davis in your flex so that you can get any position, and you should be able to get somebody. But Gabe Davis has a lot of upside. So if you could flex somebody else in, you'd be great with it. Poppy Gama, thank you. Oh, you're welcome, man. I'm glad you won. Cooks, ETN, or Damian Harris. Man, the Damian Harris thing, he did outcarry Stevenson, which was good for him last week. But I'm ultimately against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was bad against the run last year. I don't with TJ Watt out. I know he's mostly a pass rusher, but I think they're still vulnerable on the ground. And I do think there is, but I don't know what the upside. Harris had those 15 touchdowns last year, but those are always fickle, right? And so I think Harris is kind of one of those guys. If he scores a touchdown, he's got upside, but if he doesn't, he's going to get you 75 yards maybe, and that's kind of his upside. ETN had a potential touchdown last week. He did play half the snaps. He's being used a little more dynamic of a role, and I think Cooks is really hard to sit because he is like the centerpiece of their passing game, and he's very tough to guard because he runs so many different routes from so many different spots in the formation. You can't really take him out of the game. So I would just kind of roll with Cooks and ETN and just kind of think that, Harris has, not enough ceiling for me to go with those two guys. Kavan, Damian Pierce, Zeke Elliott, A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, man, even last week they should have been using Aaron Jones a lot more, but Jones outsnapped him. But Dillon gets it done every week, and the Bears aren't likely to stop him much. The Bears have 2 new outside linebackers. They've got a couple new guys on the D-line, and I think the Packers are going to be able to just, take care of business on the ground, and that's what they kind of like to do. And so I think Dillon's your play. Damian Pierce, man, Burke had 71% of the snaps, and that was the best game script that Pierce is going to see all year. They played with a lead almost the entire game. Zeke Elliott, loved the guy, but he's down another offensive lineman. I imagine the defense is going to put 8 in the box the whole game. I don't think they're ever going to deviate from that. And so I think that A.J. Dillon's your play there. And all right, let's see what else we got here. We've got Bold. You got Curtis Samuel or Sterling Shepard. So we talked about Samuel a few moments ago. And Samuel, he is a part of this offense. His workload will vacillate week to week. But I think they do use him dynamically, and there are potentials for big plays as a runner and a receiver. Sterling Shepard always produces when he's on the field. But in that passing attack, I just wonder how much upside there is, where Samuel probably has an equivalent floor to Shepard, but I think he has more upside due to the way they're weaponizing him. They're using him as a joker piece in the offense, which is really tailored to his skill set. So I do like Curtis Samuel. I guys are giving percentages on these. I say Samuel is 60 to 40%. I guys are giving percentages. That's the way I like to do that. Cordero Patterson's matchup. So first of all, last week, Patterson saw well over 20 touches, but honestly, it was because Damian Williams got hurt. Damian Williams was in on the first drive of the game, and then he injured his ribs, got taken to the locker room, and he wasn't back. So it was not the plan for Patterson to have all that work. They know he'll wear it down. So I imagine possibly Tyler Algier is active this week, and I think that cuts down some of Patterson's workload. But Patterson, nonetheless, they're playing the Rams, and Aaron Donald's in the middle, so they're going to run him with the middle. That could be a little bit of a problem. I know they'll use him in the passing game too, which helps. I think Patterson's a nice middling matchup, I think so. I got a question and instantly roll down and say Elijah Moore or Allen Robinson. I have to think the Rams are going to weaponize Allen Robinson this week. Last week, the problem was Buffalo had a dynamic pass rush without blitzing. They had Von Miller. They had a great rotation of other rushers, and then they played a real tight zone. Those two things combined, Stafford just got freaked, and all he would do is go to what he knew, and that was Kupp and Higbee. Well, you're not going to see that problem from Atlanta this week, even with Brian Allen, the center, out for the Rams and their line scuffling. I don't think Atlanta has the manpower to take advantage of that. So I think Allen Robinson is going to get targets this week. Elijah Moore, I love him. Beautiful player. I just think right now they spread the ball too much last week. So I think Robinson has a similar floor to Moore, but I think he has more upside because I think they're going to make him a thing this week. They need him to be part of this offense. It can't just be Cooper Kupp centric again. I know it won him a Super Bowl, but they really want to expand that out. I think this is the week they establish that. Johnny, Cole Kmet, Hayden Hurst, Robert Tonyan need one. Tonyan had a really low snap share last week. I don't know that he's 100%. I think they're acclimating him and working him back. So I think that's fine, but I'm worried about him. Hayden Hurst did have an increased target share because especially because T. Higgins went out. So he had 8 targets in that game. Cole Kmet, we knew that against Fred Warner last week, he would struggle, but then the monsoon, that ruined that as well. Overall, against the Packers have really good safeties, but I think Kmet's going to be schemed up as part of this offense. He's a focal point. So I think that Cole Kmet is I'm going to say 55 to 45% over Hurst. I'm going to keep Tonyan out of this equation because I don't know that he has enough targets to compete for potential that those two have. But I do give Kmet the edge here because there's a chance that the Bengals can win this game and play with the lead, and they might run Joe Mixon a little bit more than usual. And then Seaway on Insta has a question, Connor or James Robinson. So they both get used to, but Connor is like a legit 3-down back. If you look at the box score last week, Eno Benjamin had like 6 or 8 touches. Well, those were mostly in garbage time. Connor is his job, and he had 6 targets last week, and that's huge. Connor is going to be featured as a receiver. I think there's a week where he really gets it done as a receiver. He's always a threat at the goal line too. And James Robinson played a 50-50 split with ETN. Now he did get 2 touchdowns, but those are fickle week to week, and how much are the Jags going to score, right? So I'm going to say that I give 65 to 35% edge to Connor. No, actually 75 to 25. 75 to 25% edge to Connor. All right, see what we got next here. Bobby, Harris or Robinson? So now we have another James Robinson question. Okay, so it's a good question here. Damian Harris, again, he has to like score a touchdown to really give you much pop in your fantasy lineup, right? And James Robinson is a 50% timeshare. So I think from a floor perspective, and Robinson's used more as a receiver, though Harris did have targets last week. So I think in terms of floor, though, I think they're even in terms of floor. And I do think Robinson, because I think he's deployed a little bit more in the passing game. They both have a chance around the goal line. So I'm going to give a very, very slight edge to James Robinson, 52 to 48% here. If you have a gut feel, you definitely go with that. But that's how I call that one out here. All right, there we go. Caught up. Carl, you're welcome. And another instant question, pick one. Edmonds, Dillon, Gordon, Jamal Williams. Really hard to sit A.J. Dillon right now. Even in a bad game script last week, he led the team in touches, scored a touchdown. I think he had 90-something yards from scrimmage. The Bears have 2 new outside linebackers. They have new players on the defensive line. I think this is a game where Dillon continues to get it done. And I imagine the Packers are closer to getting their 2 tackles back where they missed last week. I imagine they get at least one of them back. I would hope, I would think. But I would say right now, Dillon, I'm going to say Dillon over Edmonds, who should be involved as a runner and receiver. I'm going to say Dillon 60%, Edmonds 40%. Gordon and Jamal Williams are good plays, but I think that Edmonds and Dillon are a class ahead of them this week's matchups. Chris, are we trusting Najee Harris today? That's a good question, right? He had the foot injury in the preseason, then he played in the preseason game, which told us they couldn't be too worried about him, right? And then, of course, we get last week, he leaves the game with an injury, which is problematic. We can't trust him right now, but he's declared healthy. He's starting, and you have to expect that they're going to put him in there. That you think they would just shut him down for a few weeks if he wasn't right, but apparently they think he's okay. So, now Hunt, I don't know that Hunt is too volatile because he had the big week last week. We know how that goes with Kareem Hunt. He has the alternating volatility games, and they don't alternate every one and the other. They're just very hard to call. Harris is at least, I know last week he didn't get volume. He only had 10 carries, but I think overall Harris is probably going to be your volume guy. But I think you start Dillon over him this week because, again, we're not sure what Najee has. Dillon is a big part of that offense. They want to go, heavy with the running backs. So I think you just mitigate your risk a little bit, and you say Dillon's a strong play, and you go with him, right? I'm just checking how many news broke here real quick. All right, now let's see what the next question is. KB, Waddle, or Michael Thomas, or should I play both and bench Najee? Again, you have 2 good options here. Waddle only had 5 targets last week. Now, he had that 4th down touchdown catch, which was a great thing, but it's very clear it's all about Tyreek Hill. But I still think that said, I think that Waddle is going to have at least a solid, stable floor of targets, and they get involved. Whereas, Najee, like we just said, we don't know what the real deal is. And Michael Thomas, after a sluggish first half, really did well in the second half. And I think he'll be, well used against Tampa Bay. They're going to have to lean on the pass a little bit. And so, I think you just take your risk away from Najee. If you have a gut feel that Najee will be okay, if you need a 20-point game, Najee is more likely than both of your receivers to hit it. But if you want like a stable floor of 10 to 12 points, Najee may not get there if his foot reacts badly, but at least the other guys get you safe points. So I think that's how you got to predicate your decision. And then we got an instant question, King D Love 2, Dawson Knox or Cole Kmet. Ultimately Knox is, if it wasn't a Monday night game, if I knew that Gabe Davis was out, which I don't know is, I hope he plays. But the thing there is, if Gabe Davis was out, I would think his target share go up. But right now, I'm assuming, maybe wrong, that Davis is in because it's a Monday night game and I can't make that decision, right? So anyway, Cole Kmet is a factor and a centerpiece of the Bears offense. Last week they had a monsoon and Fred Warner guarding him. It was one of those games that wasn't going to work. I think Kmet has a higher floor, and I think he has similar ceiling. So I go with Cole Kmet there. I probably go 60 to 40% on that one. Delroy, you got flex, you got Zeke, Samuel, Carter. Who would I pick? I think I had a similar question to this earlier. It's a good question. I think it's a lot of ones that people are going to have. So what I answered earlier when I answered this question was Carter's your good blend of floor and ceiling. He had like 9 targets last week. He's, getting a little bit more work than Brees Hall, but they dumped the ball. Flacco dumped out. And I know he ran 1 million plays last week, but it still has a lot of volume into the running backs and the passing game. And that's huge for Michael Carter. And Carter also had 10 carries. Zeke's going to have the problem of the offensive lines down another one. Their left guards out, Connor McGovern. And I think with Cooper Rush, they're really going to stack up that box with 8 guys, and they're probably not going to deviate from that. So I think Carter is your floor with moderate ceiling play. I think Samuel is going to be a part of the offense, but his usage is going to vacillate week to week. So I think your upside play is Samuel. So if you need to go for, a guy that could get you 18, 20 points, maybe even more, Samuel has that in his range of outcomes, but he also has that 6-point game in there as well. Whereas Michael Carter is likely to get you double digits and maybe not a whole, maybe not get near 20, but I think Michael Carter is kind of your safe one there. As much as I love Zeke, you have good options. So I kind of rule him out there. And next question, we have Ray, Metcalf or London in full PPR. Yeah, I know it's come to that, right? That's really tough. Metcalf's one of the most talented players in the league. He got 7 targets, 7 catches, only like 35 yards last week. So that's kind of frustrating them. So, but the PPR helps, right? Drake London had 7 targets last week. They're playing the Rams. I imagine the Rams play a lot of zone, but I imagine London has a good number of snaps with Jalen Ramsey on him, which that would like blot him out on those specific snaps. Although Ramsey wasn't looking great in zone last week, I'm kind of concerned about that. But I think London doesn't really have a chance if he's near him. So I'm going to say this week I'm going to go with Metcalf based on the matchup. And then Bean Productions, who do you start at flex? Penny, ETN, Curtis, Samuel, or Julio Jones? Julio Jones, I guess, fell on his knee last week, and now he's a true game time decision. So let's just rule him out for that reason. We don't need to take risk that's not there. Penny, I didn't like, only had 12 carries last week, and then Ken Walker comes back this week. ETN did play half of the snaps, and he did miss out on a touchdown, but he looked very explosive while on the field. So here's what I think. I think ETN, with his involvement is going to have a very strong floor for you. So I think ETN is your floor play with ceiling, whereas Curtis Samuel, I think, has a bigger range of outcomes where he's going to be involved, but he could be decoyed some weeks more than others. Last week, they weaponized him, but I think he has a really wide range of outcomes, whereas ETN is a more narrow one, but I think it's safer. So if I want safe, I'm going to go safe with decent ups. I'm going to go ETN. If I'm a big underdog in my game and I really got to swing for a fence move, then I'm probably going to go Curtis Samuel, hoping he sees 8 or so targets after seeing 11 targets and 4 carries last week. Got an Insta question there. Let's see what we got here. We got Hines or Jacobs. I'm going to go with Hines here because I think with the receivers out, Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, I think they're going to allocate targets all over. I think we're going to see a lot of snaps with Hines and Jonathan Taylor on the field. Frank Reich really likes Hines, and he likes getting him involved. And Matt Ryan is very good throwing to backs. So I think I like that. Josh Jacobs had 10 carries last week, 57 yards, but ultimately they're not going to use him much as a receiver. And I think that's what's going to hurt him here. Now, could he score a touchdown? Yes. But I think Jacobs has like a pretty scary floor there. And then King D Love had one more question. Would I start Ingram since Kamara's? So the word I just read was Tony Jones is supposed to split in with Ingram, because I guess Ingram's not 100%. He's on the injury report and he's going to play. But the problem there is we don't know how much work he's going to get. And Ingram is a really bad matchup. The Buccaneers have both Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks stopping the run, and they're outstanding run defenders. So I think overall, I'm going to Ingram's an emergency start. But if you got anything else, you can go with that. And then before I get back to YouTube and Twitter, I got one more Insta question. Hines or Melvin Gordon? For the same reason I said a moment ago, I'm going to go with Hines. Gordon is going to have a solid floor, though. So if you just want a floor play where you're going to get, about 60 yards maybe, but not a whole lot of upside, of course, Gordon could get the end zone if he doesn't fumble the ball, right? So I think Gordon's your floor play. But Hines has a reasonable floor, and he has some upside. All right, let me get back to a few questions on YouTube and Twitter. Forrest, Raheem Mostert or Tyler Boyd in the flex. So Mostert got a decent number of carries last week, did well with those. I don't know how often he's going to be run, though. They're playing Baltimore, and right now, Baltimore, I project Baltimore to be a pretty good run defense. They really played it well last week. I like the way they used 5 guys up front, and they were rotating their safeties down and making things difficult. And so I think Tyler Boyd, and you never know Boyd's usage, right? He has weeks because T. Higgins was out last week in the second quarter with the concussion. But, that said, Mostert has a super, super low floor. I think Boyd more likely is more involved in the offense. Again, both of these guys have low floors. So I'm going to go with Boyd because I think ultimately he ends up seeing 5 targets and Mostert might not get 5 carries. A couple questions on this. So Robbie Anderson versus Lazard or T. Higgins. T. Higgins is healthy. He's going to play. Now, if just go with T. Higgins because it was a concussion. He's supposedly fine. And so you got to roll with T. Higgins. He is like an elite play any week he's on the field. All right, let's see what we got here. Laura and Jim Cooperman. PPR, you need a receiver and a flex. Wilson, Drake, Dortch, Devontae Smith, Ayuk, Corey Davis. So Ayuk, I love Ayuk this week. Seattle's corners are horrible. Their 2 corners from last year are gone. They even got the Justin Coleman, their 4th corner. He's hurt. Their 3rd corner is questionable. And they with Jamal Adams, a great blitzing safety, they don't have him. So I'm very concerned about the defense there. And I think Ayuk now that it might be light rain. I heard I'm looking at weather, NFLweather.com. It says like light rain and then it's like 20% in the 2nd through 4th quarter. So I don't think that's an issue. So I think that Ayuk's a great play for you here. And then you need a running back. And since your only options are Wilson and Drake, you got to go with Wilson. He's going to lose carries to Deebo Samuel, but you got to go that route as well. I got an Insta question. And if any Insta questions don't get answered, you might have to re-ask them because it scrolls up quick on me, and I've got a few platforms going here. Duvernay, Lazard, or Chark. The entire interior line for the Lions is out, so I'm worried about downfield passing. Duvernay, it's going to be real hit or miss, but Miami's corners are really good. So I'm going to say Lazard here coming back from the injury against the Bears defense with a new corner and a new safety. So I think that angry Aaron Rodgers is going to attack. Should you pick up Burks or Landry? Landry for a solid floor. If you want to swing for the fence guy, Burks could emerge and become something special that way. I don't know that he will. He's one of those guys that could be a bust, but he could also be very good. So if you want a stable player, Landry. Otherwise, you got to go with Burks. All right, let's see. Mike, would I use Cooper Rush over Paris Campbell? Oh, man. So, yeah, quarterback always gets you some points, right? Whereas Paris Campbell, I think they're going to just allocate the targets all over the place. I think Campbell's going to see targets, Hines extra targets, Doolin some targets, Kylan Granson targets, maybe even Mo Alley Cox. But, the odds of a quarterback getting the team a touchdown or some run after the catch stuff. I don't think Cincinnati's the type of defense that's just going to come out and completely shut them off altogether. So it's just really hard to play Campbell over a quarterback. I think a quarterback has some kind of a built-in floor there. So I would use Cooper Rush over Campbell. Campbell could have a big game, but we haven't seen it. We really haven't seen that out of him. So I think that's why we say that, and I know he's been injured, but I just don't see it. So I'm going to go Cooper Rush, 80 to 20% there. Gabe Davis or Jahan. Yeah, if you don't have a backup, you can't take a 0, right? So, Jahan Dotson had the 5 targets last week. He did score 2 of them, so that was good. If you can't go to the waiver wire at all, because if you have any chance, you can move Davis to the flex, and then you can get any player in the Minnesota, Philadelphia, Tennessee, or Buffalo squads to play Monday night and sub them in. But if you can't, you can't take a 0. So I would say you kind of got to go with Jahan Dotson there. Instant question. Let's see. Breece Hall or Amari Cooper. So Cooper only had 6 targets last week, and there's a lot of low, short passing by Jacoby Brissett. So that wasn't good. Hall played less snaps than Michael Carter, but they both were involved, saw a ton of targets. So I think they both have decent floors. Cooper's going to get more targets. I don't think that 11-6 thing for Peoples-Jones is going to be a deal. And Cleveland is playing the Jets, so there's opportunity there. The corner, I'm not worried about Sauce Gardner beating Amari Cooper. He's going to be a great corner, but Amari Cooper's so nuanced in the game. It's really 51-49%. I'm going to say to Cooper, if you have a gut feel, go with it. Both of them have potential for a good game. Both have decent floors. I'm going to very slightly edge out Cooper here, but again, go with your gut if you have one. Kevon, DK, or Aaron. So Aaron Jones had 10 touches only last week in a game that they were down 17-0 at halftime. They should have totally used him. He still ended up, I want to say, in the range of 80 yards. And right there tells me that Aaron Jones in a bad game is probably better than DK having to deal with Geno Smith. Geno Smith just 7 catches, 35 yards. Ouch, right? But the coach of the Packers said after the game, they've got to get Aaron Jones more up. They realized they made a mistake. Aaron Jones has to be the centerpiece of their offense. I think they fixed that this week. So I'm going to say Aaron Jones, 75% to 25%. Matt G, PPR, Swift or Henderson? Yeah, Henderson, Swift's in a deal here, right? Because he's injured. He's going to play as of now. He's going to be maybe limited in his usage. All three interior linemen for the Lions are out. Washington has a decent front seven, but Swift should get targeted in the pass game. Henderson's not good, but if he's going to get work, then he has a better floor. But did Akers do something in practice to get his job back? And that's the thing we're never going to know. They're not going to be told anything about that. And so I think Swift has at least a floor, and he has a massive ceiling because of his receiving ability. Even though Lions hurt, he could take a catch to the house. Henderson is just really replacement level running back. So I'm going to say you take your shot with Swift because he has to have, that ability, and he's on the field. So, I mean, I got to say, as long as he's playing, you got to go with Swift there. And T is ready to go. Yes, T is supposed to play. Let me see if there's any updated news here. Kadarius Toney is active. Ooh, yay team, right? Anything else new. But if you guys see any inactives, they should be coming out in the next couple minutes here. Just let me know on those. And Insta questions. Let me see here. Let me scroll up here. We got Ingram, Hall, and Naheem Hines. So I think Breece Hall is the safest blend of floor with a little upside. Hines, I think, is a very good play this week because I expect his targets to go up, but it's still going to be more guesstimation. At least Hall hit have a significant role. Ingram is supposed to split carries with Tony Jones, and Ingram's not 100%. And the Bucs are great against the run with Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks. So I'm gonna lean Breece Hall, but Hines has real upside here. But I think Breece Hall's involvement is pretty much understood that he's going to have a great workload. I'm not a jerk, by the way. The Jimi Hendrix thing. Oh, that's funny. I'm a jerk. That's funny. Iron Eddie, PPR, Damian Pierce or Paris Campbell. My apprehensions about Pierce last week kind of came out because I thought that Rex Burkhead is the receiving back, but the game script was perfect for Damian Pierce. They led the whole game or were tied, and yet he had 11 carries for 33 yards. That was problematic. And Pierce is going to be on the field, so he played like 28% of the snaps. So right now, Paris Campbell, because Alec Pierce is out, Michael Pittman's out. Honestly, I think Campbell has a higher floor. I mean, because if Pierce is going to see passing down work, well, his floor is 11 carries for 33 yards, right? And that's, whereas Campbell should catch a few balls at least, you would think. So I think Campbell's the blend both of floor and of ceiling. So I'd say like 65% to 35% over Pierce. All right, let's see. I have an Insta question from Josh. Robbie Anderson versus LeVar versus T. Higgins. I may have had that one before. T. Higgins 100%. He's playing. We got to go with him. Oh, I think I got some of these. So let me see here. Yeah, I think we got these. And then, all right, 2 for PPR. So 2. Lazard, T. Higgins, Rashad Penny, Jeff Wilson, Robbie Anderson. So T. Higgins is an auto start there. Lazard, we're still, we're always just wondering what his role is going to be. He's a great blocker, and I know it's a joke, but it's not because they love his blocking as a receiver. It sets up a lot of things they want to do. So we never know if they're going to feature him as a receiver. Penny only had 12 carries last week, and now Ken Walker's in the deal. Jeff Wilson's going to lose a lot of touches to Deebo Samuel at 8 carries last week. Robbie Anderson had the 75-yard touchdown, but man, that's hard to predict those happening, right? So I'm going to say T. Higgins 100%. And then after that, I am going to probably put Jeff Wilson just out of Lazard because Wilson has a decent chance of scoring a touchdown. And then I'll go with Penny 3rd and Robbins and Anderson 4th. All right, let's see what else we got here. Jordan, pick one. Oh, you're talking to the chat? If you want the chat to answer, I should just let the chat answer, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's not what you wanted. Kirk, Devontae, Curtis, Samuel, Claypool. All right, so Claypool was used in the middle of the field. He's like 6'4", 230 something. And as a slot receiver, it's a great big target, and defenses don't have an answer for that because you can't put big people like that in the slot. Defense want the smaller, shiftier guys. So Claypool's going to have a built-in advantage, especially against New England. They're not going to have many answers for that, and they're not going to look to take him out because he's not considered to be a big threat. So I think you're going to be in good shape with Chase Claypool. Now, Christian Kirk, a lot of targets, and I don't see that changing right now. Christian Kirk is going to be targeted, and Indianapolis has a lot of zone, and Kirk running the slot is going to lend itself to a lot of success in the zone. So I think that's the route we're going to. Devontae, we got to see it first. This passing offense about A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. He had 4 targets last week, but not inspiring any confidence. I think we can wait on him. Curtis Samuel is interesting because also basically I'm going to say Christian Kirk is a lock for the lineup. Claypool has a great floor, but I think if you need to swing for defense, Samuel's usage could go way up and down week to week. He had 15 touches last week, but I think ultimately Curtis Samuel is that floor ceiling play. So if you got to swing for defense, you're going to go with Samuel. But if you want a steadier play, Chase Claypool is going to be a staple of the offense, and he's going to have a floor. I just don't know how much upside and how many points they're actually scoring in the game. All right, John. Well, you can safely start Higgins right now, and I haven't. And that's a late afternoon kickoff, but they said he cleared the concussion protocol, and they have to caveat that by saying that if he doesn't have a setback, so you got to look at that. But so you're playing him. Gabe Davis though has an ankle, and they don't know. It's a Monday night game, so we're not going to get any info on that one. What I would do is I put Gabe Davis in the flex, and then I'd make sure I either had one of the other Bills receivers, McKenzie or Crowder, because their usage would go up if he's out, or I'd get a player from the Tennessee, Minnesota, or Philadelphia team that are all playing on Monday night as well, and I would look at it that way. And then I would say if I had a flex, I could switch that out. So that's how I look there. Another question on Insta, we've got Taysom Hill or Akers in the flex. I have no idea what Akers' use is going to be. I know Hill will be on the field some. Until we see Akers back in the lineup, you're risking taking a 0. Now, could he get 20 touches and take the lead over? Yes, he could. But we don't know that right now. So I would say Taysom Hill is your floor play, but I don't think he has a lot of ceiling. So if you need a ceiling play and you can risk a super low score, then Akers would be that. But Hill is the one who's going to get you some points where Akers may not. All right, Lauren, Jim Cooperman, PPR, need one. Running back was Wilson, Drake, Dortch, Evans. I think I answered this one already. I did answer that one already. Let me see. All right, so I think on that one I said we're going with Ayuk. And then I said, and I may give you a second one, though. Oh, you know what? Well, Lazard is supposed to play. Lazard's reported to play. So I might say Jeff Wilson's a little sketchy, but because of Debo, I'm going to say Jeff Wilson's number 2. If you don't want to play Lazard, I think he's your number because he'll get carries. He'll get double-digit carries, and that should work out. Instant question, Christopher. You've got I'm going to go with Swift over Harris because even selected usage he uses a receiver, whereas Damian Harris is last week he did get targets, but he's usually not used that way. And then you have 2 flex spots, Higgins, Jacobs, Michael Carter. Michael Carter's going to get a lot of usage and run around a receiver. T. Higgins is supposed to play. I go with those 2. All right, see what else we got here. T is playing. Yeah, again, the caveat they're giving on that is barring a pregame setback. So that's the only – then they have to say that. But he did clear the concussion protocol, so he's expected to play. Melvin, Bateman, ETN, or Elijah Moore, you pick 2 there. Miami has some good corners. Xavier Howard is playing. I know Byron Jones is out. But I still think at the end of the day, it's not a great matchup for Bateman. ETN has half of the work. He could have had a touchdown last week. Elijah Moore in the middle of the field will get plenty of usage. So, you know what? I'm going to slightly sit Bateman there. So let me see. All right, so what else we got here? Let's go to the next one. CB. Need 2 in a PPR. You lost Mitchell and just read Swift on a pitch count. Hunt, Zeke, Pierce, or ETN. So, yeah, I would look at ETN there. We just talked about him a moment ago. I think he's going to get at least half the use, and they try to use him in an explosive way, so that helps. And Hunt is your next one, but again, we always know that usage vacillates week to week. We never know what we're going to get there. But I do imagine Swift's going to get some work as a receiver, but they are down 3 interior linemen. So if you're worried about him, then it'll be ETN, and I would probably say Hunt. Zeke, I'm worried about. I think they're going to see 8 in the box today, and Dallas is down another lineman. I don't know how much room is be. And Pierce is a problem because he played less than 30% of the snaps and not used as a receiver at all, so that was a problem. Another one on Insta, Christopher, Taysom or Higbee. You know what? Higbee had 11 targets last week. Taysom had a nice trick scheme play up for a 50-yard run almost, and that kind of made his end. He got used the goal line. I think ultimately Higbee has a good floor, and at tight end, a floor is something definitely worth considering. And the Atlanta matchup's good. I'd be surprised if Higbee didn't get you 4 catches, whereas Taysom could get an absolute 0 if they don't get that trick play going off to him, and that might not happen here. So that'd be it. Josh, props for today. DJ Moore over the yardage, Allen Robinson over the yardage, Ayuk over the yardage, T. Higgins over the yardage, and Zach Ertz over the yardage. Those are my 5. So again, all overs, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Zach Ertz. I could dump my document on, if I remember at the end, on my Twitter page. And if I do that, then you can have access to all my my picks there. Last week didn't work great because Elijah Mitchell got hurt. Gee, thanks. And Kamara got hurt, injured his ribs. So hit 1 out of 4 because a couple of in-game injuries. All right. Oh, Iron Eddie, get back there. Let's see him. All right. Half PPR and E3 with Kamara out, Ramondre, ETN, Dotson, more. So I do like Ramondre this week because they put Ty Montgomery on the injured reserve. Montgomery was seeing targets. Well, I think that Ramondre is supposed to be like the next up as the passing game help. So I think he's going to have a better role this week. And ETN looked very explosive on his carries, and he was in the game about half of the time. So I think that he's a good play as well. Dotson had 5 targets, scored twice on those, so that's a little misleading. And Detroit's beatable there too. I mean, none of these guys have bad matchups. And so in Elijah Moore, I mean, Cleveland has great outside corners, but he plays a lot in the slot, so he avoids them. So, wow, it's a good problem to have. I'm just going to rank them, but honestly, this is a coin flip across the board. I am going to go Ramondre first, ETN second, Elijah Moore third, Dotson fourth, and then I don't need to risk Paris Campbell with this group of guys. You have such good options. So I think, the one is going to be between Elijah Moore and Dotson. Moore should get more targets. Dotson has a better chance to score, although Elijah Moore is a touchdown scorer as well. So if it's up to me, I'm edging out Elijah Moore over Dotson 55 to 45%. Definitely playing Ramondre and ETN there. All right, let's see what we got here. Next one, let's go down here. Crack shot. Sir, you know what? Brandon Cooks gets used all over the formation. We've seen this story last year. You can't stop Brandon Cooks because they use him well. They land him at the Z-type position. A Z means he's off the line of scrimmage, doesn't see press coverage. And Cooks is so darn shifty, and he's such a precise – he used to be a deep threat. He has revolutionized his game so much. So I am not worried at all about a corner taking Cooks out of the game because Cooks has shown he is pretty much cornerback proof, and Davis Mills will throw him the ball. But as long as he's not hurt, Cooks is the deal. But I get it. But Cooks is just not. If he was an X receiver lined up on the line taking on press coverage, it's a different story. But a Z receiver, it just gives you that free release a little bit easier. And they'll stack Cooks too. And when you stack a receiver, you're not getting a hand on him. And good luck in the first 3 yards getting by on Brandon Cooks because he ain't doing it. All right. Cooper Rush or Joe Flacco. Got to go Flacco. Flacco threw the ball a ton last week. And, I don't like facing Cleveland. But the thing is, the pass rush is mitigated because they're going to get the ball out in 2 seconds. And the outside corners are tough, but they got weapons in the middle of the field. And they got running backs who can do damage after the catch. Cooper Rush, I mean, there's a chance that Dallas doesn't score. There's a chance they get shut out, right? So I'm going to say Joe Flacco here. And Cooper Rush has no line. I mean, left guard's out now too. Yeah, it's pretty sketchy there. Jack, McLaurin or Michael Thomas? Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Michael Thomas did nothing until the game was out of hand, and they scored 2 touchdowns late. Atlanta turned the switch off. That was pretty apparent. McLaurin, though, only had 4 targets. He get he had the big play, so that helped. But ultimately, they're rolling out a lot of – both teams have options, right? The Saints have 3 guys they can throw to. The Washington Commanders have at least 3, if not Gibson out of the back. They'll have a nice downfield route. So – It's 51-49 here. McLaurin on the hope that he gets a bounce back on targets. Michael Thomas, not sure we had that 2 touchdown game coming back. And Tampa Bay will probably make him a priority defensively. So very slight call, 51-49 on McLaurin there. All right. And Mitch, all right, Wilson or Carter. So Wilson's going to lose carries to Deebo Samuel. Samuel had like 8 carries last week, and that number could go up. So Carter, though, is used as a runner and a receiver. And so the split that Carter has with Breece Hall is almost similar to the split that Wilson's going to have with Deebo Samuel. Funny enough, receiver running back. But Carter catches a lot of passes, and that's been back last year. They threw 19 balls at the running backs last week. So I think Carter, PPR, I think he's your guy because he's got to get catches. And they probably at some point trail against Cleveland. And so I think Carter gets it done as a runner and a receiver here. I'm going to say 60 to 40% on that one. Dusty, you've got Wilson or Montgomery. Oh, man, Montgomery. So Montgomery's not seen that 80% snap share last year. It's closer to 65. I think it was 67 actually last week. And Herbert will be mixed in there. Green Bay has always been a team you can run on a bit, so there's that, and that works out. But Wilson, like we said a moment ago, he's going to split and work with Deebo Samuel. I think I'm going to go Montgomery 60 to 40% here because we don't even know if the 49ers are going to mix in Jordan Mason or Ty Davis Price. I know Ty Davis Price was inactive last week, but that may have been more a special teams thing than him being completely benched. And that's important detail there. So I'm going to say slightly Montgomery. I'm going to check the inactive, see what I see here. Laviska Shenault is inactive. Not that we were worried about that. But if you like Shi Smith, he played like almost close to a full snap share last week as a third receiver. Didn't do much with it, but he is a player that could be in a deep league, could be somebody who we could look at. Any other inactive? Mason Rudolph. Thanks. That helps. Let's see. Any other inactives here? Julio Jones is inactive. So Mike Evans is limited as well. He's going to see a lot of Marshawn Lattimore. That's rough. Gage is the guy here, man. Gage and the running backs out of the backfield. So that's where we're going to look for help. But yeah, so Julio is inactive, fell on that knee last week. All right, Alvin Kamara is inactive as expected. We kind of knew that talking in. J.K. Dobbins is out. And all right, so right now that's kind of what I'm seeing across the wire. So if you have questions, let me know there. Sorry, further here. If I missed any questions on Inside One here, but you can repost them if I didn't see them. We have Benjamin Akers and Taysom Hill in the flex. It's a good question. Akers could get you a 0, and I don't know if he gets his job back. I mean, I hope he does, but I have no idea what's going on with that. So right now I'm a little apprehensive about starting him. And, gosh, I'm almost going to say Taysom Hill. Because he's not having a great ceiling, but he should be involved at some point. I hate sitting Akers, but you can't take a 0. That's how I'm going to look at it. That's a tough one. All right, let's see here. Shampoo, Warren, Palmer, Algier, who isn't worth a roster spot. Najee Harris's foot's a deal. Algier, I think, was inactive because of special teams. So that was a concern. But Damian Williams is the guy, though. When his ribs get healthy, it was clear he's their guy. So I'm going to say Algier's guy. Maybe this week he's fine, but I don't think he's going to have – I think Williams was there weird enough. He's their guy. House of Green, Williams, ETN, or DK. DK in the rain. Light rain, 30% first quarter, 20% after. So I don't think rain is going to be a real factor. Said that last week at the Bears game, but I live 30 miles away and it didn't hardly rain here. It was a monsoon there. That's not going to be an issue there. I think ETN's your guy. Williams, the problem with Jamal is the 3 interior linemen are all out for the Lions, and that's Williams loves the middle of the field. So I think ETN's your guy here. That's going to be there. Chark or Hines, same reason. The 3 interior linemen are out for the Lions, so there might not be time to pass, throw passes downfield where Chark lives. So Hines should have an increased role this week with Pittman and Alec Pierce out. I think Hines sees more times with Jonathan Taylor on the field. All right, let's see here. Lauren Jim Cooperman. Man, I saw this question before. I answered this one already. All right. Shane, if you guys heard this week, I go Samuel, Cam Sutton, Cortland Sutton, you probably mean. I hope you mean Cortland Sutton or Kenny Gainwell. All right, Cortland Sutton only had 7 targets last week, but I'm not worried. He got a DPI, deep downfield. He's a big part of that offense. I think he's going to be an outstanding player for you this week and this year. I do like Curtis Samuel, but I think Sutton is way safer. Gainwell, his snap share was too low last week. I was very frustrated. And if somebody had Bateman or Sanders, we're going to go with Sanders there. Bateman's going to face a little tougher corners, maybe some Xavier Howard this week. Not excited about that. So that's where I'm going to go there. Shane, see what you got here. Damian Harris. Here we go. So we're back. So I'm still going to say Cortland Sutton with Curtis Samuel, close number 2. But I'll put them over Damian Harris. Even with standard, I guess Damian. All right, I'm going to say this. It's definitely Sutton. Second for safe, it's Harris. And then second, if you want boom bust, it'd be Curtis Samuel. That'd be the way we look at there. All right. Sky, I dumped my shares of Sky Moore. He's not playing. He might figure out the offense. He might be involved later. Right now, it doesn't look like he's anywhere close to playing. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think he's going to be a thing there for a while. And I remember the beat writer from Kansas City saying in the offseason, it takes a while to learn Andy Reid's offense. And so apparently there were some hitches there. And I think the roster spots are too valuable right now. I mean, if you got nobody to keep on your roster, then fine, you stash them. That'd be it. Sarah, you got Jeff Wilson or Brandon Cooks. My worry with Wilson is he's going to lose carries to Deebo Samuel. Samuel had 8 carries last week, so Wilson might top out at 10 to 12 carries. Brandon Cooks should see, 7 to 10 targets. And like I said, he's like nearly impossible to cover. And so I think that Cooks has a better floor and a better ceiling. So I go 65% to 30% over Wilson there. Conan. Sanders, Edmonds are. I think it's Allen Robinson week. I think that last week between the tight zone and the pass rush without blitzing, I think Matthew Stafford was uncomfortable. I think he had to default to what he knew, that was Kupp and that was Higbee. This week they're playing the Falcons. AJ Terrell's a very good corner, but they'll move Robinson around. Not worried about the pass rush. Rams are without their center Brian Allen, but I still think that nonetheless. They need Robinson. They need to make him a thing so defenses have a lot to prepare for and not just Cooper Kupp. So I think that's the way we're looking there. I think we're going to go with Allen Robinson. Sanders is, I might say Robinson like 70%, and then 30% would be Sanders. Sanders does, he played well last week, but I think that backfield work does vacillate week to week a bit. I like Edmonds, but the matchup this week may not be the best because the Ravens are really going to stack that front up, I think, with safeties and making confusing looks for the passing game, but that's also going to impact the running game. Robert, all right, you got Landry, Mooney, or Samuel. So Mooney should be schemed up. I know the corners are very tough, but they play a lot of zone in Green Bay, and Mooney does very well running a diverse route tree, and they'll get him into the zones, and Justin Fields does look for him off design rollouts. I think Mooney, of the three, I'm going to say he has the safest floor of the three. Landry had 11 targets last week, but it was a weird game. And ultimately, I just think it was an odd game where they were chasing. So I'm going to say Mooney. Samuel is just your boom bust guy because he had 15 touches last week. And could he get there again? Yes. But I think they're going to want to get McLaurin and Dotson more involved. So I think Samuel is going to be a big facet, but there's weeks he's going to be a decoy. So I think Mooney is just the safest of the three. And in terms of ceiling, Samuel is that boom bust guy. So he could get an 80-yard touchdown in the run game, in the pass game. But I think he has a lower floor. So I would go Mooney slightly over Samuel. Landry, I just don't think that big target game's coming up here again. I just don't think it is. Coach Amador, full PPR, Metcalf, Londoner. Again, I think I talk about Robinson. I think they're going to really focus on him in this game. They're going to make him a thing that because the pass rush isn't going to be a problem like it was last week. And I think they need to get him jump started. Their offense needs to have another productive receiver. London did see targets last week, but he's going to have an oppressive cornerback matchup at least some of the time. And Metcalf is just too much underneath stuff. So I'm going to go Robinson there. Robinson, I'm going to go like 60 to 40% over Metcalf. London, I'm just going to leave on the outside because, again, I think he's going to have enough downtime in the cornerback matchup that it's going to be a little bit of a stay away. Mike Evans is going to play today, but Julio Jones is not. And we know that Chris Godwin's out. It's going to be the Marshawn Lattimore thing. And Lattimore, in my opinion, well, really numbers bear it out, really had Evans' number. And now with only Russell Gage to worry about, no left tackle, Donovan Smith, they have interior line issues. I don't think Brady's going to be able to throw the ball downfield. Now, that said, can Evans still win? Yes, he's going to play. I just think you diminish your expectations for him this week. Gage or Dotson? I think this has to be a Russell Gage game. He's healthy enough to play. And the two guys from the Saints that gave all the trouble to the Brady teams in the past, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, their slot corner, he's now in Philadelphia. Free safety Marcus Williams is now in Baltimore. I think the middle of the field is much easier to attack than it's been in the past for Brady, and I think he has to go there with offensive line issues. So I'm going to say, and Dotson had 2 touchdowns, but only had 5 targets last week. I think that we could see 9 to 12 targets out of Russell Gage, but I'm still going to say Dotson's very talented and he could score. So I'm going to say 60% Gage, 40% Dotson. If you have a gut feel, go with it. And Johnny, Kareem Hunt, Christian Kirk need a flex. Kirk is safer. Kirk has a higher floor. He's going to see 7 targets most games plus. Kareem Hunt has the upside. Kareem Hunt, we see it last week. He has 2 touchdowns upside. He's a big play threat. So, but Hunt has weeks where he disappears, and that happens frequently as well because he is the second guy, right? So I'm going to say Kirk's your safe one. If you need boom bust potential, then you go Kareem Hunt. Tim. Gordon, A-Rob, Harris, Singletary. Again, I mentioned you were here a couple moments ago. I talked about A-Rob, how they really think the Rams have to make him a thing this week. I'm going to say he's number 1. Damian Harris is number 2. Melvin Gordon, 3, and Singletary, 4. The 3 running backs are all in timeshares. I think Robinson gets at least 7 targets in this game, and that's how I would put my ranking there. And Alvin Kamara, yes, Kamara's out, and the running back split supposed to be Tony Jones and Ingram ahead of him, but they're splitting carries, but they're playing against a Bucs defense of Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks. Like I said, Ndamukong Suh was there last year, but I think Akeem Hicks is a better run defender at this point. So I think it's going to be tough sledding for them on the ground. It's going to be a tough one. Maybe it'll Taysom Hill, right? Jeff Wilson or Mark Ingram? That we're back to that. Jeff Wilson has a better chance of scoring, I think. If Ingram's going to split work with Tony Jones, that worries me. Jeff Wilson's going to split work with Deebo Samuel, but at least he's got the 49er system down, so that kind of helps him as well. When I start Pollard today, again, last week he didn't look good. The offensive line's in shambles. Left guard is out now. Cincinnati probably puts 8 man in the box, but it's not an impressive matchup. I think Pollard could come out of this game with 70 yards total offense. So I think depending on your options, a reasonable start. JKM started standard Renfro, Dotson, roll the dice on Lazard plays. Lazard is expected to play. He's a great blocker. And so sometimes they use him to block. They don't always use him as a receiver. They can. And if he does, he'll do well. Dotson had 5 targets last week. Renfro, I believe, had 6. That should be a big shootout with Las Vegas and Arizona. That's a tough call. I think Dotson's your upside guy because I think he has a higher propensity to score, but Renfro gets open in the red zone as well. I think Renfro has a higher floor this week, though, because I do think it's a shootout. And then I think Dotson's your guy. You take a little bit of a risk on the low targets, but he could go off by finding the end zone. And then I think since you have 2 good options, I think you can give Lazard a week to see what his role is. And then you got Kyle. ETN, Gage, Davis, Jahan Dotson, you need 1. Again, I said, well, Davis, I assume you mean Gabriel Davis here. And because it's a Monday night game, we have to be concerned about whether he's going to play or not. So that's a little bit problematic. And I really would prefer if you only need 1, I think ETN's your guy. He showed to be explosive last week, and he had about half of the touches. And so I think you have a reasonable enough option to play him right now. Gage, I think, has a good game. I think a really good game. He should get a lot of targets. But again, we're not, ETN is kind of a part of that offense right now, whereas Gage could have a downside game. I think he's going to do well. And so I trust ETN more here. And Jahan Dotson, the targets were a little low. He had the 2 touchdowns last week. So I'm just going to say that if you can't play Davis, then I think we go ETN 1, Gage 2, Jahan Dotson 3. And that's probably where I sit on them. But go with your gut here. It's that close. But, yeah, you could. Kadarius Toney is active. Thank you, Johnny. Austin. Start 2, Michael Carter, Patterson, Swift, Harris, Penny. Oh, man, you got – and plus 2 flexes. So that means you have to sit one of them. 5. You know what? As Swift, I know they're down 3 interior linemen, and he's supposed to be on a snap count, but we know how that goes. Sometimes they don't have that. So if you're risk averse and you're like, you know what, I can't take that risk, I get it. Sit Swift. But if you can't sit a player that talented because he can take a screen to the house at any time, I think I might sit Penny because the rookie Walker is going to be in the lineup, and they only gave Penny 12 carries last week. Penny could go off. This is really tough here. It's really tough because Penny is a dynamic player, but he just wasn't used well last week. And I just worry now with the rookie in the backfield as well, that cuts his work as well. So I'm just going to say, and if you don't trust Najee Harris's foot, if you're worried about a setback at all, then you put Penny in for him. Otherwise, grudgingly, because Carter's going to get targets. And that's the deal there. So grudgingly, I'd sit Penny, but I would consider sitting Harris for the foot or Swift if you're worried about the pitch count and the interior line injuries. All right, let's see what else we got here. So I scroll something. Well, I got to start blazing through these questions. I got to go a little faster because we got a lot of questions here. Bateman, Renfro, Dotson, or roll lice. I think we went through that one, maybe. So I think it's going to be. Oh, we didn't. Bateman was on this one. Bateman has a tough corner matchup here. I think I'd go Renfro 1, Dotson 2, Bateman 3, and then, like I said, you can sit Lazard. Dobbins is out. Thank you. We'll see Kenyon Drake. And I wouldn't, man, Lamar didn't run much last week. I wonder if it's because of his not having a contract. I really do wonder that. Michael Thomas or Christian Kirk. Kirk has a higher floor, I think, for targets. He's going to be a primary guy. And Other than that, Michael Thomas probably has a higher ceiling because he's more likely to find the end zone. I think the Bucs make a priority to slow him down. So I'm going to say Kirk 52%, Thomas 48%. If you got a gut feel, go with it. Eno Benjamin, can't play Eno Benjamin. All his touches were in garbage time last week. He had like 1 or 2 touches early, but all of his rest of his 8 touches, they came in garbage time. Pollard to be a regular part of the offense. You got to go Pollard there. All right. Winston or Goff? Goff is down 3 interior linemen, so he's going to be under some duress here, and that even hurts his middle of the field game because the defensive line can get a lot of push on them in the middle. And so I'm going to say, Brown's still going to get outlet targets. Honestly, I would go Winston and St. Brown. That's me, because I think Goff's going to have real trouble without 3 of his 5 linemen here. And I think ultimately St. Brown just gets targets no matter what. And I've learned that last week. So he's going to get targets. Landry had 11 targets, but you can't count on that week to week, I don't think. All right. Chark or Elijah Moore. Again, those interior line injuries for the Lions make me worry about any downfield passing. I'm going to go to Elijah Moore. Hines on the Colts or Robinson on the Rams. I think Allen Robinson is going to have a big game. I think he's going to be a featured part of the offense. So Hines is going to get more targets, in my opinion, this week than he did, even though he had like 6 last week. So I think he gets a lot of work. But I'm going to say Robinson because I think despite week 1, he's much, much safer. All right. Melvin Ingram or Ayuk. I think Ayuk has a big game here. It's going to be drizzle out there, but I think the 2 corners for Seattle are terrible. They don't have a pass rush, and Jamal Adams is out. So I'm going to go Ayuk 80 to 20% there. Austin, start 2-2-2. Oh my gosh, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have Amari and DJ starting. Claypool. That's a long question. Can you shorten it? Give me a shortened version of the question. I can't get through. I can't process all it. Sorry, Austin. Put something else in and I'll answer it. Jamal or Swift, PPR. So Jamal's might get more touches because Swift is injured but playing, but the 3 interior linemen being out, that really hurts Jamal Williams a lot. So I think even at a snap count, I think Swift is going to be potential for more dynamic. So I think I go with Swift there because Williams will be hurt by those missing linemen. He runs up the middle a lot. There's going to be nothing up the middle. Ethan, bench grab. Do you grab Dubs and hope you beat the waivers or grab Corey Davis? Corey Davis probably topped out last week. I think Garrett Wilson will get better over time. Elijah Moore's a superstar. I just think there's going to be a target void. And it's when Zach Wilson gets back, I'm not really excited either. So I'm going to say that Dubs is your stash because if he ends up hitting, then it ends up being a big deal for you. And got a question from Ricardo and Insta. Kamara's out. Ingram or Gainwell? I'm going to say Gainwell. Ingram was supposed to split work with Tony Jones, and the Bucs should be nasty up the middle with Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks. So I'm going to go with Gainwell there. And Jay Nunez, Duvernay, Moore, Campbell, and Flex. Moore to me is going to see a lot of work. The slot's a place to attack Cleveland, and I think that's what they're going to do. Duvernay, he had 53% snap share last week. He scored the 2 touchdowns, but I don't want to bank on that. Moore is going to be out there most of the time. Paris Campbell's always interesting, but I think Elijah Moore has a floor. Campbell has a 0 floor, but he could go up, but so could Moore. So to me, it's Elijah Moore fairly safely. Dominique, I'm sorry. If Davis is out Monday, McKenzie or Burks? Well, here's the deal. If Davis is out, then McKenzie probably goes from a 40% snap share to an 80. So I'm going to say McKenzie there. Burks had 5 targets, but only 37% of the snaps last week. So I'm going to probably say McKenzie in that situation. Drake or Hines in the flex? I'm going to go with Hines there. I know that Drake with Dobbins out will probably be their lead guy, but I'm going to say Drake has a higher floor because Drake will probably get you 10 touches. Hines could disappear as it happens, but I think they're going to use him more in the passing game with Pierce and Pittman at receiver out. I think Hines actually flexes into the formation at times with Taylor on the field. So I'm going to say Hines has a way, way higher ceiling than Drake, but there is a floor because if he just doesn't get utilized, that could happen. So Drake, low ceiling, a little bit of a floor, but I would probably prefer Hines there 60 to 40%. Thank you, Troy. Pierce, Hall, Bateman, Cooper, Ayuk. I like Ayuk this week. The corners are bad in Seattle. Jamal Adams out to their pass rush. The blitz, he's a great blitzing safety. He's out. So I think this is a big game for Ayuk getting off the schneid. And I think Cooper also gets going here because they need to jumpstart him. And I believe he gets open in the short area of the field. And after Peoples-Jones had the 11 targets, I do think that they know Cooper has to be part of what they do. And so I want to go with those two. Bateman has a tougher corner matchup. Hall's intriguing. He's splitting work. And Pierce, again, with playing 28% of the snaps and no real tangible receiving work, I want to kind of go that route. Now, if you have a gut feel of Breece Hall over Cooper, I could totally see that. But I do think Ayuk gets himself going here with a big game. Williams or Stevenson? So Ty Montgomery's on the IR. He had 4 targets. Stevenson's going to take over much of that passing down role, in my opinion. I could be wrong. That's what I'm looking for to happen. So I think Stevenson, because Jamal Williams, there were now 3 interior linemen, and that's kind of where he lives. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, and Swift is probably going to see diminished snaps. He is. But if you have him in your lineup and he uses a receiver at all, my guess is that he has the ability to score you some points. So, yes. But, yes, Swift is on a snap count here, likely. Sometimes that doesn't happen either. They tell a snap count, and then the flow of the game gets going. So that's something we got to think about as well. I got an Insta question. Renfro, Chark, or Olave? I'm worried about Chark this week because the 3 interior linemen out for the Lions. I think they're not going to have time to throw the ball downfield. Renfro's probably in a shootout here. So, he might get more than the 6 targets he had last week. Olave, I want to see it first because he's like the 3rd option in the receiving game, and I don't know how much they're going to throw. I don't think they want Winston to throw. They were trailing by 16, and they threw. So I want to see it first. Renfro, I know, has a role, and he'll be open. Diego, Swift or Henderson? Henderson's flat out not good, right? But he's going to maybe get snaps. But we don't know. Is Akers going to get his job back? And if he gets his job back, you're left holding the bag. But, Swift on a limited snap count, I think he still has a similar floor to Henderson. So I'm going to say Swift 70 to 30%. If you got a gut feel, roll with it. All right. Start 2, Carter, Patterson, Swift, Harris, Penny. You have 2 flex spots. Thank you, Austin, for shortening that up for me. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the player, if I'm worried at all about Najee Harris's foot injury, I'm sitting him. I think, and Swift is on a snap count. Now, Swift, if you want dynamic upside and you're willing to risk a low score, then I think you leave him in. But the safest plays you have are Carter, Patterson, Harris, and Penny. Again, if you're worried about Harris's foot, then you put in Swift. Otherwise, the other, if you're going to play Swift and Harris, the player I'd sit from that group is Penny because he's probably going to be splitting work with Ken Walker today. Aaron's. Half PPR need 2. Wilson, Hines, Thielen, Mooney, Curtis, Samuel, Kirk. Wow, yeah, you should be super. You got a good problem to have. Kirk has a great floor. And I like that about him. Wilson's going to probably lose at least half of the carries to Debo, who had like 8 carries last week. Hines should see an expanded role in the pass game, but we're predicting that, and that's narrative, and we're not sure that's going to happen. And Mooney, though, should be schemed open. There's a lot of zone the Packers play, so he should get open in the zone. I think Kirk and Mooney are your safest plays, and they both have reasonable ceiling. Curtis Samuel had 15 touches, but I think his usage is going to vacillate week to week. I think the most established guys in their offense with floor and ceiling are Mooney and Kirk. It's a tough call. RMT, Cooks, Samuel, Landry. I got to lean Brandon Cooks because he is the focal point of the passing attack. Samuel did lead with 15 touches last week. I think that changes week to week. Landry had 11 targets. Again, I think that vacillates week to week. I think Michael Thomas, maybe Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson, the tight end, get involved, some Taysom Hill. But I think Cooks is going to see 7+ targets every week. And the way they use him, he's like impossible to defend. So I think we just say Cooks has a great floor. He has ceiling as well. And I think Landry put up a week like last week. I don't think that's going to happen a whole lot. So I if you have a gut feel, go with it. But I'm going to say Cooks there. All right, let's see what we got here. Ethan, Noss, Mitchell, and Wilson in his own. Do I grab Ingram, Davis, Price, Mason, Moss, or Burkhead? PPR league, Burkhead's going to see receiving work. It's like 72% of the snaps last week, 8 targets. So I think he's like a good PPR play. You're welcome. And I don't know. Mason was active last week, but it might have been for special teams. Davis Price was inactive because maybe Mason was active for special teams. And I think that's what we're worried about. So I think if you have a feel on one of those guys, then I think you go with them. But I don't know which running back is going to come out of there. And that's the problem. So I would say, and Ingram to me isn't worth it because he's supposedly going to split carries to Tony Jones today. So I'm going to say it's Burkhead fairly easily. All right. And Jay, you've got Miles Sanders or Marquise Brown. I know Brown didn't do much. I was like, this should be a shootout this week. And I'm not the Raiders that have the outside rush, but I think they could get Marquise Brown angled over the middle on some slant routes and some downfield stuff where Kyler could break contain. It's close. I'm going to say Marquise Brown 60% to 40%. Brian, Swift or Jamal Williams. Yeah, so they're down 3 interior offensive linemen. That's a bad scenario for Jamal Williams. So I think even Swift on a snap count, which are on, right, they split anyway, right? So I think even Swift on a snap count gives me a 60 to 40% edge because I think the big play potential is there. Austin, okay, I think I didn't answer that one, so we're good. Brendan, Zay Jones, Burkhead, Golladay, or Dotson. You need 2 receiver and a flex. Zay Jones had 9 targets this weekend. It didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me at all. So I think I'm going to take a look at that, and I'm going to say Zay Jones has a good floor. Golladay just doesn't look good right now. Dotson saw 5 targets. He scored twice. The box score was great, but the target count was poor. But I'm going to say, your safest plays here are Zay Jones and Dotson. I'm going to say Burkhead, 72% of snaps at 8 targets last week, but I think we're just going to stay the route, and we'll rank, in case you need a third one, I didn't read that right, Burkhead would be the number 3 there. I don't trust Golladay right now. I just don't think he's fitting with their quarterback and situation. Ethan, my handcuff for Foreman, the snap share wasn't close last week. They both didn't play much. It was like 14% for Foreman, 6% for Hubbard. That told me that Foreman is their backup. It's all snap count. Eddie, Brees, Pierce, or Stevenson. I think Stevenson steps in as the passing down back this week. Ty Montgomery went on the IR. He had 4 targets last week. I think that's really important. So I think that Stevenson, Brees Hall is a very close second. I think Brees Hall has a higher floor than Stevenson. So if you want the floor play there, but I think Stevenson has some real upside this week. And I probably got to rapid fire these because I'm not going to get to them all. Guys, I'm totally sorry. I'm definitely not getting all these today because I'm going to eat lunch before I got to work more. So let me just Swifter. I'm just going to answer them. Swift or Henderson, Swift. Julio's out. Zeke or Chase Edmonds. Edmonds 55% to 45% offensive line. Jordan, you're welcome. Eddie, Komet, Hayden, Logan, or Robert. Komet first, Hayden second, Logan third. Johnny, Julio's out. Fournette's active. Thank you. DeAndre Swift is active, probably on account. Answered that one already. Swift or London. London may have some tough cornerback matchup today. So I'm gonna say Swift 55%, London 45%. But if you're worried about the injury and you're very nervous with that, then you play London and don't take the chance. Higbee or Zach Ertz. I love Zach Ertz this week. Zach Ertz is healthy. He wasn't healthy last week. He was on a staff count. And anyway, there's 2 players out on the Raiders defense that benefit Ertz. I'm going to go Ertz. PPR, Davis, Dortch, or wow. And you know what? And I would consider Dortch here. Dortch is probably a shootout there. Devontae, I'm worried he's not seeing targets. I think he might be a bad fit for what they're doing right now. Corey Davis, hard to bet on him week in, week out, getting a lot of targets. I'm going to say Dortch. Swift or London. Again, Swift, unless you're nervous about Swift's injury, in which case you go London. Moss or Singletary. So, wow. Moss had more touches. Singletary had more snaps. Ultimately, wow. Moss has a better chance of scoring a touchdown. I'm going to say 52 to 48%, but it's close. It's super close. DPJ or Kenneth Walker. After the 11 targets, they didn't just use him as a deep threat, so I was kind of good with that. So I think I'm going to go Donovan Peoples-Jones. Walker's first game, he might be eased in. Penny as well. I'm still going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. That split worries me. Penny has more upside. Penny has the biggest upside. You want upside, go there. Johnny, yeah, you get all the points for Taysom Hill, no matter how he gets them. Austin, I think you guys said a bunch of times, so I think we're good there. Sherlock, can I play Jones? Yes, you can. Totally. And they're going to be used heavily. They're both going to be used. Evans in for thank you. Good there, Mitch. Thank you, Mitch. Burrow or Russ. Burrow has a higher floor. Which is why I would start him. I would start him with the higher floor. Wilson, I don't know what they're doing. They sometimes use their running game too much in week 1. Drake or Wilson. you know what? I'm going to go with Wilson here because I think he has a better chance of scoring a touchdown. They probably get equal amount of touches. I trust their run scheme better than the one Drake's in right now. Brian, I would sit Lamb. I hate to say it. I would sit Lamb. Ashy, good morning. Opinion on Wentz or Brady. You know what? All the receivers seem to be down for the Bucs. Crazy. I'm gonna say Wentz. Very nervous. Got a question on Insta. Monty or Hunt? Monty for a higher floor, Hunt for ceiling. Hunt tends to have those big games, small games. That's the way I'd look. Insta, I'm going to call this one. I have to. If you get me on YouTube or Twitter. But I'm going to get done questions there as well. I got to answer these off. Turn off. Give me a second, guys. And now got to end one of these here. All right, there we go. All right, back here now. All right, let's see what we got here. The better hold of your group, Ethan, is. I would honestly say Burkhead. Swift or Jamal Williams? I'm going to say Swift. Austin, I've seen your question a ton of times. Kelsey and AJ Browns. Personal preference. It's a dead even trade. Ty. Drake. Jeff Wilson over Drake slightly. Hill or Albert O. I'm going to go Albert O. His usage looked good. Wilson or Penny, go with your lean because Penny didn't get used enough last week. Penny now has to deal with Walker back. Wilson or Sanders. Sanders 55 to 45%. I think Deebo Samuel gets a lot of carries. Wilson, ETN, Patterson, Zeke, Penny. Choose one. I'm going to go with ETN here. ETN I think is dynamic. I think he's going to be used. Safer floor is Patterson. Patterson safer floor. Jesse, Ingram, William, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm going to go DPJ there. Johnny, I'm going to sit Justin Fields against the Packers. Gage or Boyd, I'm going to sit Boyd. Gage is a great matchup. The only healthy guy left. Wentz or, you know what? I think Cousins is going to be in a shootout. I like Cousins. Hines or Robinson for the flex. Robinson 60 to 40%. Nick 70-30. Ayuk Worth, yes. I love him this week. Love Ayuk. Edmonds, ETN, Lazard. If you want them ranked, it's ETN 1, Edmonds 2, Lazard 3. Patterson over Henderson. Robinson over Bateman. Julio's out. Ayuk 1. No, A-Rob 1, Ayuk 2, Paris Campbell 3. Lamb or Wilson. You know what? Wilson could lose a lot of work to Deebo Samuel, so I'm going to go with CD Lamb. Would I play Curtis Samuel? You know what? Samuel had 15 touches, but I think Amari Cooper is going to get fed this week, so I'd go with Amari. I do like the Rams -10. I like the Bengals -7.5. Do like them. Montgomery or Sanders? Scott, I think Montgomery has a higher floor, but I think Sanders has more ceiling. A-Rob, Ayuk, Campbell, Julio's out. Scott, I would say ETN over Montgomery on that. Julio Jones out. Am I getting near the end? Here, let's see. I would go Cooper over Samuel. I think he's going to get fed the ball a little bit more. Samuel's targets go week to week. You're welcome. Yeah, Harris is cleared to play. He's off the injury report, but I don't know what the deal with his foot is. So you definitely can consider sitting him. Montgomery, I would say Penny 1, Montgomery 2, Williams 3 because the interior line's out. I would say Ayuk 1, Elijah Moore 2, Carter 3. I'd say Kirk 1, Harris 2, Anderson 3, Henderson 4, and I'd go with the 49ers defense. Doolin, boom, bust. Campbell has a higher floor. If you want safe, go Campbell. Otherwise, high upside for Doolin, long play. Brady or Wentz? I'm going Wentz. Brady has too many injuries on the team. Hines or Robinson? Robinson has a higher floor and is safer. Hines has a higher ceiling this week because he might get expanded targets. I would start. It's supposed to be light rain, 30% first quarter, 20% second, third, and fourth quarter. So I would have no issue with the rain. All right. London or Williams? Williams has the interior line is out. I'd go with London. You're welcome, JKM. Claypool or Lazard? You know what? Lazard's still coming back from injury. You don't know what to expect. Claypool was used heavily in the middle of the field. Claypool. Ryan. You know what? Love Gabe Davis, but it's a risk, and I think it's a risk you probably shouldn't take. So I would probably play him over Claypool. Etienne, Robinson, or Gordon. Robinson gets a little more work than Etienne. Etienne's more explosive. I will give Etienne a little bit of an edge there. The work will be even. Melvin Gordon, I'm going to put third. I would go Cousins over Brady. The injuries are piling up on the Bucs. It's going to potentially be problematic. I would go with Sterling Shepard over Devin Singletary. He always produces when he's on. He produced last week. I would go with him. Johnny, thanks, man. It's good. And Patterson, Etienne. I go Etienne 1. Patterson 2. Penny 3. CD, Cooks, DJ Moore. DJ Moore 1, Cooks 2, Lamb 3, Deontay 4. Pierce or Duvernay. Duvernay played 53% of the snaps. I would say Pierce slightly. Hunt, Edmonds, and Elliott. Based on matchup, I love Edmonds, but I would sit him this week. I would sit him. I think the other two will work out better for him. Carter or Etienne, 51-49. Etienne has a better chance of making a big play, so I'd give him the 51-49 edge. Go with your gut. Too many Instagram questions. It wasn't that many. PPR. Penny, Stevenson, Burkhead. I think Stevenson gets a passing down roll today with Montgomery out, so I put him first. Penny second, Burkhead third. John Smith, full PPR. I would put Sutton ahead of Michael Thomas. Yes, I think he's going to have a big game here today. You're welcome. Ethan, I would probably drop Pacheco. He needed an injury. If you're counting on an injury to be all right. Higgins, easy. He's going to be cleared from the concussion. Robert, you're welcome. RotoWire. Yeah, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Smash the like button. Please do that. We appreciate you guys. If you want a free 2 days behind the wall at RotoWire, go to rotowire.com/try. Get you 2 days of free access. No credit card needed. Chris and Don. Patterson. I think I answered that one already. I'd go Carter there. Yep, and there's the paywall thing, rotowire.com/try. Give that one a shot. Email only, no credit card. I go Murray Cooper over Samuel. Yep, please hit the like button. You're welcome. I go Sanders, Patterson, and Drake. The last couple questions, and I'm out. Montgomery over Drake. Albert O over Knox. Samuel over Jamal Williams. 50-50 on this one. I would go Olave over Duvernay. And here I'd go Ayuk 1, McLaurin 2, Davis 3. And you're welcome, Brian.